Okay, so we've shifted back to, it might be a little bit of an ordeal for a while to do videos again. Goody. Um, it's been a week. Very long week. My brother and I had a necessary conversation with our mother on Monday. And interestingly enough, it was something that neither of us could have planned on. The way it worked out was I had to go pick our mom up for an appointment. And I asked her the night before what the address of the place we were going to was, and she couldn't let me know. She said, it's Gracie's pediatrician's office or whatever. It's like, I don't take her to the pediatrician. I don't know where that is. So, interestingly, I woke up in a great mood and was having these visions that were kind of intriguing, and I will talk about those possibly today, but not right this second. But I was in a really good space when I left the house. And I go and I pick my mom up at the hospital, and I asked her what the name of this place was, and she said, what did she say? I don't even remember what she said, North something. But then when I looked it up, it wasn't giving me anything, like on my GPS app. So she gets out to the car and it's like, what's the name of this place again? And, she tells me, and it's like, well, I just looked that one up and nothing's coming up. And then she tells me, okay, well, maybe it's this. So I looked that up instead. And the closest one of those that came up was in Columbus. It's like, well, I'm definitely not going to Columbus today. So, it's kind of funny because before I even left the house to go pick her up for the appointment, I was feeling kind of rushed, or feeling behind anyway, because I wasn't moving as fast as I had wanted to in order to get there at 9:30 to pick her up to take her to her appointment. And I was debating on skipping out on the makeup and everything, and I got the sense that it's okay, go ahead, get ready. And so I finished getting ready, and it didn't take a whole lot longer, but it was like 9:45, I think, when I left. But then after all this confusion with the the location, we ended up having to call my brother because she didn't know what to tell me. It's like, it's a shame you didn't just give me the address last night when I asked you, so I could plan this stuff and have it in my head how it was all going to work out. So she's all aggravated because I'm pissed at her because she didn't give me the address, and she just told me it's the pediatrician's office, but then didn't have the right name of the pediatrician's office. So we end up, I just stop and I call my brother, and the phone was hooked up to the Bluetooth in the truck, so we just talked on the radio, right? And he was real chill at the moment. And I was in a good space until she wasn't giving me proper information, and I wasn't knowing where I was trying to go and all this stuff. He ended up, the name he gave me, I put it into the GPS and it popped up automatically. It's like, all right, now I have direction. So, I took the avoid freeways off and went ahead and cruised the interstate that time, because I try to avoid that if I can. But if we're in a time crunch, we're going to do it. So we get up there. Okay, before we get up there, we have a conversation going up there. And my mom had tried to get me and my brother to go to her appointment with her, the day before. She just sent my brother a message that, hey, you should go with us to this appointment. And he never responded. So she didn't push it any further. Well, then, I think she's probably glad it didn't work out that way, because what happened was she, starts trying to rally around doing her thing with getting us into the seriousness of the whole thing, that was going on with our father and all this stuff. And of course, me and my brother have been pretty good at getting setting our boundaries and sticking with those here lately, especially where our parents are concerned, because we're realizing how jacked up our lives have been because we kept getting pulled into their chaos and their bullshit. So, we ended up having a conversation, and my brother's therapist has talked to him a few times about needing to have the conversation with our mom, and he's like, I know, but at the same time, it's like one of those things. It's like, how do you just get to that situation where it just happens? And luckily that day it did. And it was helpful that we were both on the phone, as well as our mom was in the car, because at one point, she was trying to go on and on about our father, and how was it? What's she gonna do if something happens, and feeling bad because when she found out on Wednesday last week that he hadn't been taking his meds, she told him that if he ended up having a stroke because he took himself off of all of his medications, did he really think she was going to take care of him? So then she's been feeling bad because he took himself off all his medications, had multiple strokes. They all seem fairly mild. There were more issues, like the first couple days he was in the hospital. He seems like he's kind of not quite back to normal, but the bigger thing is like mobility issues. Like, he can still walk, but he's like even clumsier than he was before. Basically where that's at. But she was trying to feel bad about that and all this other stuff, and at one point, I think the only thing I really offered to much of the conversation was, he's been making his decisions when he keeps taking himself off of the medications in spite of knowing that he has the high blood pressure, the stents, the diabetic, all the things that he's got. He's got lots of things. So since he chose to do that in an unhealthy, unsafe way, that's on him. And, what I said was, he hasn't really had the will to live anyway. Like, he's not a nice person. He's not. He's a bully. But that's not new, and it's like the stuff that he says and does to Gracie, like, she said she's only seen him smack her in the face one time. It's like, that's still one more time than it ever should have happened. And I have seen him reach to try to do that at least another occasion. And then of course, being on the receiving end of the bullying, where she was just making fun or laughing at it too, and, making a big joke of it rather than trying to figure out what was wrong with the child, so I'm not feeling all warm and fuzzy, not feeling real super concerned about what's happening. I feel like at this point, since they don't have access to mine and my brother's energy like they did to suck the life out of us, they're getting what they were forcing us to have to deal with because they chose not to do their healing work. So I don't feel bad about that. I just don't. Anyway, for the conversation, that was the big thing I said, was he makes these comments all the time about maybe I should just go die or whatever, like his birthday last year, we went out to Cracker Barrel, and it was parents, me and my brother, and his wife and kid, right? And while we were there, he was so fucking grumpy, and my brother said something about it. He was kind of, he kind of teases, trying to get him to cheer up and all this stuff. And my mom said, "What is wrong with you?" And he said something to the effect of, he just really thought he'd be dead by now. It's like, cool. But that's literally the sentiment that's around that man always. So, no, I don't feel bad. If he ends up going that route, that's on him. It's not on me. At the end of the day, nobody is going to live forever. In spite of, my grandfather and his best efforts, even he didn't live forever. Although he did leave a hot mess in his wake. But anyway, there was one point in the conversation where I was just it's like I felt like I needed to be saying more, but then I also had that, that little nudge on, no, let him talk. And my brother did some talking, and he said some things that needed to be said that he'd been holding in for a while. And, I got the sense that really the biggest thing at that moment was just holding space to support him and let him do what needed to be done. Was not pretty. And he mentioned something tonight that I hadn't even really registered. He was talking about my mom made a shitty remark about my sister-in-law just wanting to Mrs. Wilson next to her brother and blah, 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 because she's wanting to live next to her brother's house, right? Or that's their ideal spot. There's a house that is for sale. The issue at the moment is my brother and sister-in-law have to sell their house before they can buy that house, which they really, really want. And there's people that want my brother and sister-in-law's house, but they got to sell their house first. And then there's another couple, I guess, in front of them that's also the same way, where it's like all these people are lined up to want to buy these houses, but can't do it because or they're waiting on somebody else to have the sale go through and be able to do the thing. So it's an ordeal. But when, I guess, so she makes this comment, right? And my brother, he said the more he's thought about it, the more it's pissed him off, because my mother does live in her parents' backyard, after all. But she's making a big deal about my sister-in-law wanting to live next to her brother. It's like, yeah. It's like I didn't even register that point while we were there, or while we were having the conversation. I was just kind of like, ooh. It's like just letting it happen around me and just being there to hold space. And I feel like that's really the biggest thing, like the connection that me and my brother even have. Like, I have both of our charts in my pattern app, and it popped something up the other day, and I went and was looking at it, and it was talking about it's a really good friendship connection, and very supportive. And I don't even remember what all it said, but I sent him some screenshots, and I was like, wow, it's kind of like we were destined to be siblings. But yeah, so it's just kind of interesting, because it's like this whole thing, like this whole healing journey and separation, where me and my brother are able to set boundaries between us and our parents, all started because I started speaking up. Right? So I started really paying attention to the shit that was going on and pointing things out, and my brother started noticing it too, and then so we both start, we're protecting our boundaries more and more, and being mindful of what's actually going on, and seeing, being able to step back and see how it's literally just been our parents pulling us into their chaos. It's like our whole lives. My brother said something about, I know I'm crazy. It's like, you're not crazy. I said, look at this. I said, we grew up with people who were constantly pulling us into their chaos and making us think their chaos was our chaos. It's like, but it's not our chaos. Our issue was that we had, the toxic connections that had no intention of doing the healing work, but had every intention of just dumping all their problems out on us. And now we're not going along with it. So they have to deal with themselves, and they're not okay with that. But I don't feel bad, because That's literally what they put on me my entire life. I don't care. Enjoy. So anyway, so we it was a good conversation. Well, I mean, it was tiring. It was tiring as fuck, just having all the energy around it and knowing exactly where she was going to go and watching her go exactly in those places was just kind of like, so, she kept saying how it was my sister-in-law's fault that they were moving, and my brother just stopped and said, "Let me just stop you right there, mother." He said, "This is a decision that I pushed." And the grand finale of the conversation after he said that it was his idea for them to move because he doesn't feel like they'll be able to raise their child as they want to while they're here in town. My mom said, "Fuck you." And that was the end of the conversation. But of course, she was, all throughout, she was trying to do the typical, it's all about me thing. And you're moving and taking Gracie away from me at the worst time of my life and blah, blah, blah. And it's just a fucking hot mess. And it's been tiring. This has been a hell of a week. So that was Monday, right? And what was it? Yesterday, we got my dad moved to the rehab hospital, which unfortunately means mom's back at home. So, here I'm at the school again to do my videos where she's not around because I can't just do them in my room while she's home. And of course, when I get back, she'll be wondering where I've been. So, who the fuck cares? Out. That's my answer these days. Out. Yesterday I did tell her that I have a storage unit, and so when I'm packing things up and moving it out, she's not asking me a billion questions while I'm doing it, and I have the freedom to do it while she's around. Was the bigger thing, because of course now she's not living at the hospital because he's at the rehab hospital, which this is a little bit of a parallel to where my grandfather was, a few months ago, because in August he ended up in the hospital for 2 weeks and then went to the rehab for a couple weeks and then was at the nursing home rehab for a while, and then it was kind of like a back and forth until he eventually kicked the bucket. The way my dad was acting the first couple of days, we're all kind of thinking that he was pretty much on borrowed time, and I still think that's kind of the case. But it sounds like he's doing a lot better today. And we haven't even been up to the rehab hospital to visit, because there's been a lot going on today. Namely, my mom, since she came home last night, she's been trying to go through his side of the room and realize that, he has no clean clothes over there because God only knows what he's been doing with his stuff, but, nothing was clean. He had she said 10 to 12 bath towels that were wet on the floor over there. So those smell bad enough in and of themselves. But as much as I talk about things on here, I would be surprised if he wasn't peeing in them even, because I would be surprised if he wasn't, just because of what I've seen of him for the past several months. But yeah, and she said 10 to 12 initially, and then she's found even more, so God only knows. I think she's washed a load of them, then there's more on the floor. But yeah, it's a hot mess. So she was going through everything on his side of the room, trying to clean it up. And I think as much as anything, yeah, it's with the idea that he's going to be back in there, and I'm sure he will for a time, but I still think we're on borrowed time at this point. Which that's all time really is, right? Borrowed. We're not going to live forever, so yeah. I'm just also not going to feel bad on this whole process, whatever happens, whatever it looks like, however it goes. I'm not going to get drawn into the chaos, because all that does is sacrifice my energy from me, and to my detriment, right? And, like I discovered with my grandfather, it's like, literally, he was sucking the life from my mother. And it's pretty noticeable, like, even still with how she is and like her inability to think clearly on things. Sometimes she seems like she's more clear, but it's usually when she's been around my aunt or somebody else that she's sucking the life out of, right? So yeah, it's just a whole lot of that soul sucking energy, and yeah. But since she can't access me and my brother anymore, yeah. But she stayed there with my father the entire time he was at the hospital, and he went to the hospital, God, was it Thursday morning or Friday morning? I don't remember. Time all runs together right now. But she stayed there until yesterday when he got moved to the rehab hospital. And that one, like, they let somebody stay the first night with my grandfather, but then they said after that they didn't want anybody staying with them. And they said last night that she could stay there if she wanted to that night. But, they agreed that it would be fine for her to go home, and she would be back today. But we did not go back today, because she ended up staying up half the night cleaning his side of the room, and feels like shit because, okay, going back to that whole energetic boundaries thing, or lack thereof, one of the things that dealing with this stuff still gives that toxic, leechy energy access to your energy. So I won't touch his stuff, and I try to avoid touching her stuff too. But, since she's in there touching his stuff and, moving it around, it's like, it's reinforcing that connection, right? Just adding another layer to, him having access to her energy, which is exactly why I don't want any part of it. And sounds like a personal problem, so yes. There have been multiple conversations about this vehicle, though. Okay, I had the awareness yesterday, or before yesterday, but it was like one of those that it didn't really hit me until she said it, and then it was like, oh, fuck. Because she said, of course, my father's had strokes now, which means he also won't be driving. It's like, I knew that, but then there was still that level of, fuck, that means that's going to fall on me now. Anytime there's a fucking appointment, right? But on the other hand, this truck runs a lot better than the Escape, which, by the way, is at the shop now. The problem is it has really shitty gas mileage. It's like 17 miles to the gallon or something. Not a fan of that, especially as much driving as I've been doing here lately. It's just kind of like, but yeah. And she pointed that out, and I was just kind of like, fuck. And then, of course, since I have to deal with getting her over there, and I was like all over the place today. This morning, I started out, the family friends that we have are out of town now. They flew out this morning. I forget where they're going, but some island south of Florida. And I met them at their house at 3:15, and we went to the airport. Dropped them at the airport. I drove their car back and, parked it in the driveway, pottied their dog again, and gave him a couple snacks, and then I was going to come back a little bit later to feed him. I did go back and feed him. It just was not as soon as I had planned on, because I was so tired. It was just like, I got back home at like 4:30, and then I was sending myself messages until like 5:30, 6 o'clock, because that's the time my brain is most active and like really making solid connections, right? And just like something about the hours when a lot of other people are asleep, when you're not affected by what all is going on in the space beyond, like, because, okay, I'm over here at the fucking school, right? So, yeah, obviously there's lots of thoughts and feelings around this space in the daytime hours and whatnot, especially when there's people in the building. But, since that's one of those time frames where a lot of people are in bed, I've always enjoyed, I've had night shift jobs. I liked those. It's better than a lot of the times dealing with people because there's less to deal with. It's like I can deal with being there by myself. I have no problems being by myself. I can keep myself entertained pretty easily, honestly. But yeah, it's just like sometimes you just need the quiet. But yeah, so since I was up and I was already kind of thinking about things because I had just driven back to their house and switched out the vehicles and drove back home, I was like, all right, now I got stuff to write down. So I wrote it down, or I texted it to myself. A lot of good information. I've had some thoughts along the way where I think that the brunt of my book writing time is going to be in messages that I've texted myself. Because like when I get back home, I'll probably go through and try to sit down and write those out. Usually I like journal them, but I might just put them straight to the computer and start working on it there, because that would probably be a little bit easier. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so I did that a little while, and then I went to sleep. And see, I woke up at like 8:30. I was like, nope, can't do it yet. And then I woke up again at like 9:15. I was like, ugh. And I finally talked myself into getting up at like, I think it was like 9:45. I put back on what I had worn when I went to take them to the airport, which is what I'm still wearing. But yeah. But yeah, I went ahead and got ready, and then I decided before I went to feed their dog, even though I should have probably just gone and fed the dog first, I went over to Hardee's and got breakfast, and then I went back and dog ate. I ate there with the dog, and he got one of my hash browns, and all was well. And I stayed with him a little bit longer that way too, so yeah. Then I went home and walked my dogs and thought about doing a video then, and I was like, no, don't really want to do it with my dogs in the car, because my dogs, well, you've seen my dogs, that's my chaos crew. I call them that for good reason. And figured it'd just be easier to not have to worry about them being in the car, right? So I figured when I went back over to check on Sammy and feed him in the evening, I go a little earlier and do it then. I tried. I got like 10 minutes in, and it's kind of chilly today. I think the high was 60, and it was fine, but yeah, sheriff didn't stop. They've stopped before, but yeah, well, I was in a different parking lot though, so this one I'm parked, whatever, here's what it is. But I went over there early, and I went to try to do the video, and he kept whining, and it's like, it's cold out here, you got wet feet, and if I let him in the house, then he'd like start barking louder, and I was sitting right next to the door. It's like, this isn't gonna work, so fuck it. So I skipped that one. I didn't think I was gonna do one today, but then when I got back home, my mom's on the phone with my dad and asking if he's apparently out of clothes up there, which is to be expected since he had a pair of sweatpants on yesterday, and when he told the nurse that he had to go to the bathroom, the nurse was too preoccupied in getting his part of the paperwork handled and making my dad sign things rather than getting up and going to the bathroom at that time. So then we had to bring his sweatpants home to wash those. So he needs new clothes. But yeah, that was a whole thing too. Like the nurse that he had, there was a white guy, and I don't like that dude's vibe. It's like I wasn't entirely sure exactly what it was about him I didn't like, but he didn't sit right. And he seems like somebody that's honestly probably got a lot of his way. What he's wanted, he's been able to, get. So it's like, yeah, it just doesn't sit right. So when he said he thought he recognized my mom. My mom said that they were there back in the fall because of my grandfather. And he's like, oh yeah, I thought I recognized you. And he kind of did one of those to me, which, I mean, I'm pretty colorful, so be hard not to remember me if you saw me, I guess. But I wasn't there as much. I think I don't remember him. Aaron with an E. It's like I've only ever seen that spelled. It's actually kind of funny because I've only ever seen Aaron spelled that way when it's a girl's name. But at the same time, I have had that thought not too long ago about thinking there's probably a guy out there somewhere with this name spelled with the E. And then sure enough, there he is. So it's like, I don't know why I was thinking about that, but I was. So yeah. But then, yeah, I met the dude and it's just kind of like, you don't sit right. I don't like this. But then when he left and the next nurse that came in is this black dude, it's like, he's got good energy. I like him. The other one, it's like, there's something. I don't even know exactly what it is, but there's something about that dude that does not sit right. But the second dude, cool. I would, yeah. Good energy. Yeah, and then we just kept bumping into that other guy when we were trying to leave, like, because he was doing the intake paperwork, but then it was like, so shift change, so then there was that little overlap, and then he's trying to get his shit done rather than worrying about, what the patient has to pee, and doesn't have the time to wait, but, they tried to warn him, but whatever, he's just doing what he's doing and making him wait another 10 minutes anyway. It's like, oh, done now. And then didn't bother to help with the get him situated so we could change. It's like, yeah, kind of a dick move, dude. Because that was definitely largely his fault. But yeah, just that whole lot of dissonance on that end. Anyway, whatever, it is what it is. We didn't end up going back over there tonight. We were going to, and then it ended up, it's been a day, because we had the appointment set up to take the Escape over and drop it off. Well, since my mom can't drive, I sent my brother a message and was like, the other day, and was like, hey, would you be able to follow me over there and bring me back? And he said yes. And of course he forgot about it, and I told him, or mentioned it again today. He's like, oh yeah. He said, I'm glad you said that because I completely forgot about it. It's like, I knew that was going to be the case, but here we are. So, he asked if I would go over there because he wants absolutely nothing to do with being around our mom right now. And I don't blame him. So, I finished up over at the family friend's house, and luckily her niece is staying with Sammy overnight, so I don't have to worry about going back over there. Thank God, because I'm tired. I'm going to bed early tonight. But I left over there, went back home. My mom was on the phone. I tried to ask her if she fed the dogs, and she was like it was just a big problem. Like, she couldn't nod or anything because she was on the phone. This woman is known for multitasking and checking out of things that she shouldn't, but she was just like so fixated that she couldn't tell me that. So I just threw the food on the floor for the dogs and like grabbed the keys and left. And had the issue with the escape starting like it does. But finally got it to start. And then get over to my brother's house. And I had sent him a message saying I'm on my way. And we had talked earlier and I said I would be over there around 3:15. You know, it ended up being like 3:20 or something. And I got there and there's no signs of life. It's like, fuck. You know, so I call him and he doesn't answer. It's like, fuck. So I shut the car off and am getting ready to go inside. And he calls me back. It's like, he said, I'm up. I said, good, because I'm here. And he's like, oh shit. It's like, yeah. So he came down. Yeah, it took a little bit because he got to get the kid in the car, which she ended up going in the escape with me, and then following us over there. While we were getting ready to pull through this one intersection, my mom sends me a text that says, did you need me to pick you up at Scott's? I was like, and I called her and I said, why would I need you to pick me up from Scott's when you're not supposed to be driving? I said, I told you the other day, me and your son have this handled. And she said, well, I didn't know. It's like, because you've been worrying about, you know, just because she gives all of her brain to other people when allowing them to suck the life out of her rather than, you know, trying to do anything for herself. But she did that with my grandfather. And now, you know, whatever energetic agreement she's got with my father and then that he had also with my grandfather, because that is an important contributing factor on, you know, reinforcing those toxic connections. And yeah, so she don't think very good and I don't pity her. Sorry. You know, because before it was always my drama. So yeah, now I'm realizing it's not my drama. It's just drama that was imposed on me because other people don't want to take care of their shit. So, fuck it. Get the car over to the mechanic and I knock on the door and say I was here to drop off the escape. And his wife was the one that answered the door and she says, I thought he was just going, or she said, I think he's just hooking up to a sensor. It's like, I thought I was dropping it off. I said, so, I mean, either way. But yeah, she said, let me go talk to him. So she went and got him. He comes out the front door. Didn't see that I was on the porch still. So he has this thing to go hook the car up to the sensor. And there was something, I don't even remember what he said was acting up. But he was going to let me drive it home. And I was like, okay, so what about the startup issue? He's like, well, startup issue. I told him what was going on. And he was like, okay. And he said, I think it started like when I left. I've had it parked for a couple days because I've been driving the truck. When I left the house, it started up right away. But then when I turned it off over at my brother's, it was back to having the issue again. And I was like, fuck. So it's not working, you know, but I finally got it to work or to start again, you know, so then, you know, we go over there and then he starts it like 4 or 5 times and there's not a problem. And it's like, of course it's going to do that because every single time, I said every single time, well, not every single time, but like 99% of the time in the past several months, every time I've gone to pick up or to start this damn car, it don't want to do it. And he's like, what's it doing? I said, all the electronics in the car come on, but like nothing else happens. And I was like, I can listen to music for a little bit and then start it again or try again. It's like, sometimes it works. I said, usually it's going to be like 5 or 6 times before it finally even budges. So, you know, he tried a couple things and then got it to do it where it didn't want to start. And he's like, oh. He said, well, I guess leave it here then. It'll give me something to work on. It's like, yeah, it sounds like a great idea. I said, because I don't know, but that's a pain in the ass. I said, because it's always like, you know, I got the dogs in the car and I can, you know, at least I can roll the windows down on a hot day because I did have that issue. And it's like, yeah, can't go anywhere, but at least we're not, you know, suffocating like we would have been. So yeah, so he has that. I told my brother earlier, it's like, I feel like this is the last time that car is going over there to be checked. So this will be the end of it. You know, he made a comment about, well, maybe you'll have a truck to drive soon. It's like, I like this truck. It is a nice truck. Don't get me wrong. It is ginormous, and I hate trying to park it if there's a whole bunch of other stuff around, because it doesn't cut real easy. I'm not a fan of that. Like, okay, this is a big ass back seat, right? So there's like all sorts of kindly disregard the mess. All sorts of floor space. I feel like it could be a few inches less. It would be okay. You know, and like this, I feel like is a big gap. I don't need all this extra space in here. I mean, it's nice to spread out, I guess, if I'm doing a video, but I'm not going to do a video all the time in the freaking vehicle if I don't have to. I'm glad that I have this option for today. But yeah, it's like, you know, but then Gracie, oh my goodness, she hears bits and pieces and then she just kind of goes with it. And I don't think any of us are really expecting my father will be sticking around too terribly much longer since this has started. But yeah, she just kept saying, well, you'll have a truck to drive soon. It's like, just stop. It's like, because you're going to start saying that at inappropriate times and it's really going to cause issues, and we just stop. But yeah. I am glad that I've had it to move stuff to the storage unit. That's helpful. I've made, I think, like 3 or 4 trips over there, leaving stuff. And, you know, today it was just like 2 boxes and then like a handful of things. Like a freaking, one of those baskets you can put like magazines and stuff in. I was trying to sell it at one point, and then but there was like no interest whatsoever. And it's like, fuck it, I might be able to have a use for it somewhere down the line. But for now, it's not in my space. And I have a couple boxes that are empty. I have a bunch more clothes to take to a donation place, which I was looking up the ones that we would normally go to. So I don't really like Goodwill because, okay, I like Goodwill to get rid of stuff in a hurry if I just want it out of my space. But as far as like, is it going to a good cause? Probably not as good as there are others out there. And the other one that is a homeless shelter for the county, honestly, when I looked up the About Me information, I was talking about the pastors and like the people in charge on that end. It's like, I just feel like I don't want to go that route. And this other place doesn't say anything about being religiously affiliated other than it's like partnered with like some Jewish council or something. It's like, I'll take it because it's not the other one that I'm so jaded by, you know, and sick and tired of. So yeah, I would rather go that route, even though it's like a 30-minute drive to the north side, which isn't bad in and of itself. It's just this thing gets really shitty gas mileage, and I don't have a whole lot of reason to go up to the north side anyway, so it's like, meh. But I do have stuff. I mean, I will when I have a good load. I have 2 bags of clothes and 2 boxes of miscellaneous stuff. I'm just ready to get it out of my space. But at least since I've been clearing out some of the other stuff and getting it to the storage unit, I feel like I have more space. So then it's like clearing up room in my head even. So I have more things to make sense of, you know, for the writing. And that's been going, okay, like I'm texting myself a lot of notes. And there's a lot to be said for that. I do need to put it on actual paper or computer or whatever in some way or shape or form, but we're better than we were. So we're still making forward progress. You know, it was kind of funny when I mentioned the storage unit yesterday. I said, okay, I'm going to tell you something. And I said, I know that your initial reaction is going to be pissed. I said, no, I do not have anything lined up. However, I know that at some point in time, I want to move out and have my own life. I said, I do not know any of those details when that's going to happen right now or anything. But to make it easier on myself, I got a storage unit so I can start moving stuff out that I, don't need in this space right now. And try to clear up some space around me, right? And the biggest thing that she locked in on was, so you're paying for a storage unit. It's like, yes, I'm paying for a storage unit because that's how you have to do it if you want to get one. So, yeah, but it's like she was focused on that point, and like I should have this big wealth of income coming in that she doesn't know about but should probably have access to for some damn reason or whatever. It's like, yeah. But yeah, like that was the thing she locked in on, was you're paying for this. She goes, you're not just going to put it in the shed. It's like, no. I said, because what happened when my stuff was in the shed was a bunch of other shit got thrown on top of it, or, blocking it in the door or whatever. And she was like, should have stopped. And it's like, and you can't say it didn't because it did. So, she kind of resigned to, there was nothing she could do about it. So I did make a comment not that long ago that I will not be there forever. It's like, at some point, I fucking want out. So I think part of her aggravation is that she can't access my energy to draw me into her chaos, but also that she knows that I am thinking in the direction of getting the fuck up out of there. And since it's happening with my brother, even though he doesn't live there, still in the town, he bothers her more than I do, because I'm a big pain in her ass, right? So I'm the daughter. I'm, mothers and daughters. Yeah. At least it's one of those toxic connections. So yeah, but that's essentially why I was the scapegoat, was because when I started talking, then other people started seeing what was going on too, right? And there's something more here, huh? But I think that's kind of the interesting dynamic with my brother, is because, I started talking to him about it, and then he started realizing what was going on, and he started pushing back too. And then as he pushed back, then it got to a point where he had to be the one to say something to her, because it does not matter how much I say to her one way or another. She can run over the top of me regardless. She's always been able to run over the top of my brother as well. But okay. Since he's not the scapegoat, he was more of the, he was the favorite, right? So, however you want to look at it, with the family, he was the favorite over the two of us, until he got married and was less available, and then I was around, and then I was just the one that was around all the time. So I kind of shifted into that role in some kind of way. Oh, that's another thing. Absolutely, that did get brought up on Monday, that my mom said something about how I used to just say how much I just loved family, and now I don't want anything to do with my grandmother, and blah, 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 and won't be around anybody for anything. It's like, I'm still sure you probably couldn't handle it if I told you what grandma said about you, so, and that being that whole, being surprised she didn't get arrested for abuse thing, and yeah, I feel like that's a shitty thing, because to me, that says my grandma knew that she was not a good, that was not a good situation for me and my brother to be in, even though it was another kid outside of the family that ultimately brought the end of the babysitting thing and brought attention to her blind rage fits and, beating the kids, which the kid who she did that too. His mom at some point had to, my brother said he remembers a time that she had to call my mom off, talk her down to get her off of my brother because she was going after him that way. And, and then so for my grandma to be able to say that says that she knew there was a problem and she chose not to do anything about it. So yeah, I don't really feel warm and fuzzy towards my grandmother. So yeah, and my mom even made a comment about whenever my brother and sister-in-law move, they won't even come back for the funeral, because why would they come back for her funeral when they missed my grandfather's funeral when he was there? They were still in town, right? But of course that they missed because Gracie had a choir thing, and Gracie should have been able to go to her choir thing and miss the damn funeral. But the problem was my brother wasn't where he was supposed to be, and he was supposed to be there. So, but to him, no, he's got a kid, and his kid is his number one priority, not his dead grandfather, who quite frankly wasted all of our time by several years by his inability to just kick the bucket sooner, because he was so obsessed with not dying that he was just sucking the life out of everybody else. And yeah, but the way my grandmother acted about my brother and his family not being there, and the reminder that was, she made a big point to make this big deal in front of Gracie about how, well, sorry I didn't go to Gracie's recital. It was Donnie and my anniversary, and he's more important. But first off, she was never invited to the recital because we assume she's not going anyway, so why the fuck should we even bother telling her? Secondly, the anniversary for her dead husband, her husband who died in December, that anniversary wasn't until April 24th. And, so there's that little glitch in the thing. But to also say her dead husband's more important than this 8-year-old child that's sitting right there. And my brother said he doesn't think she picked up on that detail, but still, it's like just the whole passive-aggressive nature of the family, and just kind of like, and I'll be honest with you, just with her saying that around my niece the way she did, I have no problem saying, no, when my grandmother dies, I probably will not attend. So... And there's this whole other drama. My mom, oh my God. My mom sent out some information to the sibling chat. My dad's siblings, of course, there's 6 of them all together, right? My dad's the oldest. Then there's a sister, another brother, another sister, and then 2 brothers. And they're all, and their spouses in this chain, right? So my mom sent some information. And the second brother, third in line, turns around and sends it to this bigger group list. And she's all sorts of pissed because she is just like beyond, why the fuck would Tim feel the need to send this to anybody beyond who I already sent it to, and blah, 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 blah. The way she's been talking about it, you would have thought it was like the code to get access to his health information or whatever. All I saw that she sent was the freaking schedule for the day, and the schedule changes every single day. So, he's not going to have speech therapy at the same time every day or for the same length of time. He might, but it's not going to be every single day the exact same thing. Right? So there's like 3, I think the guy yesterday said there'll be 3 hours of therapy each day, but how it breaks down will be different. And then of course, since he's able to speak better than he was over the weekend, that might, that one he might not even need any further, but as far as like, occupational and physical therapies, he'll probably need more of those. So yeah, that was the only thing I saw that she sent, and I don't see why that would be a big deal for him to pass on, but I also don't understand why anybody else would give a shit. So he sends it to this more expansive list that's got like the first sister, the second line, her 3 daughters in it, and some friend that nobody even knows, I guess, that, it's just, he's really interested or really concerned about Tim's family and all this stuff. He sent it to like this chain that's got like 12 people on it or something, and they were on it. And my mom was pissed about this stuff. It's like, I mean, I don't really see what the glitch is, but there's a glitch. She's apparently really pissed at my uncle. And that's been a whole ordeal in and of itself. I've heard so much about that in the past 24 hours. I just kind of like, I don't fucking care, dude. She showed me what the thing was. It's like, I'm not seeing why this is a problem, to be honest. So it's like one of those things where she's just trying to create more chaos to pull other people into. So now she's trying to pull my dad's brother into her chaos, which, granted, this is the brother that I told my brother to be mindful of what information he gives to him, because I do feel like he's somebody that would turn around and broadcast it. But it's like, the content, it's like, I don't feel like there was any content there that anybody else is going to really give a shit about. So I don't know, because she said it was more than just the schedule, but all I saw was the schedule and what she was showing me, so I don't know. Mom a little wacky? Yeah. But, yeah. Shit. Yeah, but it just goes back to that. It's like, since me and my brother aren't feeding into it like we're supposed to, it's like she's just like in this storm of trying to make more chaos and, just really realizing that she can't put up with herself. Sorry about you. That sounds like a personal problem that I do not care about. But yeah, I'm definitely not going along for that chaos either. So, I really wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get a video in today, but I feel like I needed this. I just already feel lighter having talked through it. I got it out of my system that way. My brother and I, we talked about it Monday. It's like, I feel wiped the fuck out after that conversation. It's like, whoa. It's just like, ugh. And then add on, whatever else. I don't know. But I don't know where that goes. We'll just put it there. But yeah, like, he's spent some time thinking about the whole conversation, and I asked him today, I was like, have you had a chance to talk to your therapist about it yet? He's like, no, that's tomorrow. He's like, but I have so much to talk about. It's like, yeah, let me know how that goes and what she has to say. But I was glad that the conversation was able to happen, and that it came up like it did, because that was specifically like, neither one of us could have planned that and could have put all those pieces together. So it was like the universe just lined it right up. So we just happened to be there, and we happened to both be able to, I was driving her somewhere, and then we had to check the address on this place, which, by the way, it ended up not even being there. We had to go back south. So, that where I was okay to get ready, she was late to the appointment because we ended up at the wrong place anyway, because, well, the doctor works at like 2 different locations, and she got the day wrong apparently, or where it was supposed to be, but whatever. But it's like, hey, and there was no way we could have planned it, and it just, I won't say that it was like without any issues, because I think this kind of conversations are always going to be a hot mess one way or another. But I was glad that we were able to actually, it makes me think of this time in basic training where I realized that the things we did that I didn't have warning about were better, because I didn't have time to psych myself out about them. Like, we had this one day, we had like all these ridiculous obstacles we had to do, and it's like, I would have psyched myself out like I just would have psyched myself out beforehand. And it's like, I didn't have the chance to. So it's just kind of like, all right, fucking do it. That's kind of how it was with the conversation. It's like, my brother has been going nuts trying to, like, knowing he needs to have the conversation, but not wanting to bring it up and not wanting to be around her. Well, in that situation, he did not have to be around her, and he didn't really have to bring it up. She started doing her normal shit, and we kind of happened to her, I think. I'm not even sure. She was not expecting the conversation to go the way that it did by any means. But it did need to happen, and, I think both of us are relieved that it was able to happen, and as well as it did. And like I said, I think the biggest thing is, for me and my brother, it's a matter of, okay, like, I can talk about the things and point out that there's problems, but then, also all these damn cancer placements, and then I can also get swept away with the wishy-washy bullshit, and then it's like, what the fuck? If he's not seeing it also, then I'm more likely to get re-caught up in it. But now that he's able to see it and kind of push back, and he sets boundaries, because, he's got all the earth. He's got a lot of earth in his chart. I got none of it. So, so like once he starts pushing back and deciding, then it's like things have to shift, because he is like putting his foot down on like some spaces that he wouldn't have before. But whereas like before, if it was just me on my own, it was really hard to like stay, I guess, in full awareness of what was actually going on, because I didn't have the boundaries, which this time around I have had those, because of course the whole twin flame thing has made it so the boundaries is like the biggest thing that keeps coming back. And this is happening. Yeah, you're getting a little wishy-washy on your boundaries again. Fix that. And then it's like, okay, fix it. Then clear this other shit out, and then we're good. So yeah, but it's like once he starts setting his mind to it and expressing that he's coming from a similar perspective, then it's like they don't have anything, there's nothing they can do. It's like, there's a lot more power in his voice and, locking in on making things happen. But it's like, I have to point it out, but then once he sees it and is really, that's one of those things where we had issues too, where there have been times, because of course we were getting pulled into the chaos. So, when I wasn't able to have the boundaries so much, and he was able to kind of the whole thing with the whole narcissistic abuse that is that the gaslighting, right? And it becomes a bigger problem when you're gaslighting yourself. And I've caught myself gaslighting myself multiple times since I've really realized what was going on. And I called him out the other day, because it's like, do not gaslight yourself or me on this matter. I said, we both know, and we have both seen this over and over and over again, and are realizing how much there is to it. Do not backtrack into the gaslighting yourself. I said, because you start gaslighting yourself, and then kind of you start doing that to me, and it's like, are you really sure this is the case? And it's like every other time, it's like that's a big part of why, I think why we've both doubted ourselves. But especially like on my end, it's because, there's been times that when he hasn't seen it, or when he's been, too carried away with what she's doing with her bullshit and gets caught up in the chaos, then it's like, well, surely it's not that bad, kind of a thing. It's like, well, yeah. So I think it helped when I called him out on that point, though, the other day. It's like, do not gaslight yourself or me on this, because I'm done with it. I'm tired of it. It's like I said, I know that is an issue, because I've caught myself gaslighting myself. It's like, at the end of the day, she's still going to do the same chaotic bullshit that she's been doing all along. It's like, that's not going to change. The only thing that has changed at this point is we are not going along with it any longer. It's like, and that needs to stay that way. So, yeah. On that note, My throat's kind of sore from talking so much. I wasn't sure I was going to get this video in today. I'm glad I did. But I am going to, I think, head that way. I really have to pee at this point. I've had to, like, pretty much the entire time. But, yeah, I mean, obviously I made it. But I'm still, yeah, my stomach's making noises still. Probably go swing by CVS to get more soap, though, because I'm out. And that is unfortunate. So I'll get home and she'll be like, where were you? It's like, CVS. For that long? No. But that doesn't matter. That's irrelevant, isn't it? Because I do what I want. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. So as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time. See ya.